Hey, everybody. I am so excited to be going live with my friend, Sarah King, at Sarah King Creates. She is a master of helping us process the hard emotions of life, things like grief, anger, feelings over loss, and just whatever we feel in the spectrum of our human experience. She has created this vision journaling process, and we are joining forces later on the 18th. And we're going to talk today about what you can expect from our experience.
All right, I joined in. It should look like it is connecting. Awesome.
So there she is.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me. And thank you for coming in the clutch and hosting on your account. Even
Oh,
better.
my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. So tell all of our followers and friends, those who are watching live, and then those who will be watching this recording, what did you have in mind when you engaged me for this beautiful experience?
I'm so excited to have you. So I will um, be hosting a live workshop next Thursday, the 18th. And Danielle, I thought of you because the topic for this week is called knowing and loving ourselves. So that's what, the last couple of weeks with Valentine's Day, Black History Month, Chinese New Year, all the love that is in the air in February spurred this for me of thinking about how can we first love and know ourselves and then be able to out of that love and know other people. But first, loving and knowing ourselves. And so with your guidance in my life, this has been a tool, what you specialize in, I'll ask you about it in a minute, but I've learned so much from you in all different areas. And certainly knowing and loving yourself, I thought of you immediately when I decided that that was going to be the theme for this month's workshop.
And I just want to say, since I took your vision journaling workshop, and since we had you when the Heinz Center was open, the things that I learned at your workshop, ways that I've learned how to self soothe and de escalate and regulate my own emotional and nervous system. I literally keep all of my components. So if you look behind me, there's my little creativity station. You see, I have my handy dandy pencil sharpener here.
Yes.
I keep my 100 colored pencils here.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome.
My pens here and my other special pens here, my Sharpies here. So I'm ready. I have my sketchbooks at my fingertips. So I'm ready at a moment's notice to stop, drop, and journal, especially when I'm feeling triggered. And I have you to thank for giving me the tools to not go breathe fire on everybody, but just to journal it out.
Oh, it has helped me so much, and I'm thankful that it has also found its way into your life.
Yes, just want you
into
to
your
see.
family's life.
I see you got your setup back there.
Oh
I
yes.
set up also as well.
Oh yes. I'm in my craft room. I got my journal. I also have your book with me.
Wow.
Hey.
The very first workbook. Oh, look at that little.
Mm-hmm.
I think I designed that. I designed that cover. That's so funny.
It's so cute. It's from a few years back when you had just gotten into this. Mm-hmm. So I was sharing with Danielle the other day that, I found some notes that I took from her from 2018, and I was reading them and reapplying them to my life. Still current, still relevant, still helpful. I love it. So I want to read something I saw today that I feel like sums up this theme. So here we go in her book, Journey to Personal Innovation series on page 10. It says, as we start to love and understand ourselves more deeply, the natural overflow is deeper compassion for ourselves and then for those with whom we are in relationship. The results are higher productivity, deeper creativity, and more success with intimate relationships. So as we love and understand ourselves, the overflow is compassion.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about what the Enneagram is and how has this been true for you?
Oh my goodness. Man, so the Enneagram is a sacred map that is used to understand several systems, including that of human personality. And it's a 9-pointed symbol. Ennea is the Greek for 9, and then gram can mean image or photo, like Instagram. And we use the Enneagram as a way to understand 9 archetypes or 9 strategies.
Here's a picture to show it.
For the way that we figure out how to survive and be okay. And there are 9 different ways that we do this, 9 different paths or journeys that we embark on. And each of those 9 ways have their gifts. Each of those 9 strategies are reflective of our superpowers and our contributions. And each of those 9 strategies are also fueled by a sense of wounding that happened in our early childhood holding environments. That sense of wounding creates in us a desire to attach to things that make sure that our needs are met. And then it also creates this aversion from anything that's going to appear to be similar to that original wounding. Okay. And so, we seek to meet our needs for things like the competence to remain secure and survive, the connections to have positive relationships, and the power and control and autonomy that we have over our spaces and our bodies, right? And so we, excuse me, I have a little allergy thing going on today in this winter, this blizzard that we're about to get.
Our drop in temperature, we aren't ready for as Houstonians right now.
It's about to be a blizzard. Houstonians we will be outside in the hurricane when it hits, it makes landfall. But if it drops below like 40 degrees, we have shut the whole state down. Okay?
Oh yeah, it makes me laugh being from the Midwest. I'm like, oh, there's a smoke. That's what we're shutting down for?
It's a possibility of a flurry. So shut it all down. You know what I'm saying? It's about to flurry. So anyway, and then, one of the things that I personally experienced is when the Enneagram found me in 2016 or 17 at a gravity retreat, I was learning from Chris and Felina Hewerts, who just really were such supportive guides in this journey. I remember writing in my journal, I am so angry. I have so much resentment. And I just feel like I cannot pray. I cannot fast my way out of this. I cannot, read enough scripture or do enough yoga. I would feel okay during the actual practices. And then as soon as I finished, I would go back to my resentful focus and back to feeling this anger just coursing through me like a wave. And I really wanted some relief. Yeah. And during the very first Enneagram workshop that I took with Chris, it was called The Sacred Enneagram. And he subsequently released a book that was really helpful as well in helping to wake up the dominant personality type 1, when stressed and triggered, experiences this mental hyperactivity of a resentment rolling over and over and over again, this situation, this conversation, this experience to find out who's wrong, who's right. And they experience a constant state of anger or rage when they feel like their ability to be in control of their own narrative, to be seen as a good person, to do good things is being somehow threatened. And I just remember feeling so seen and so affirmed by understanding this personality type. And then I learned some ways to begin to interrogate my own narratives, to dismantle the worldview that fueled this, anger and resentment, and to begin to take care of myself in a really specific way that helped me get off the hamster wheel. And so I was like, whoa. And it really wasn't a whole lot of, it wasn't magic, but it wasn't a whole lot of, complicated efforting on my part. It was just seeing myself and then being compassionate to what I saw, and compassion is defined as, having a sympathetic concern for the suffering of other people, right? And so when I start to have a sympathetic concern, not only for what I was experiencing in my own kind of life in my own little bubble, but when I learned about the other personality types and learned about how their childhood wounding and some of their pains are really fueling some of their strategies and tactics, I began to look at some of the things that people were doing completely differently. And I began to immediately try to create some kind of relief in the area of the suffering that I knew about, which transformed my relationships. It saved me time, it saved me energy, and I was able to do what I did a lot better. And I learned throughout that, we really don't operate on the golden rule as we know it. Like
Mhm.
do unto others as you would have them do unto you. No, you do unto others as you do unto yourself.
Yeah.
So if you are kind to yourself, if you're compassionate with yourself, if you take care of yourself,
Right.
that overflows and brims into your other relationships. You just want to give people that feeling, that literal oxytocin increase, those dopamines, those endorphins, those serotonin, and all those neurochemicals that surge when we experience things like kindness and love. We want to give that to other people. Conversely, though, when we don't take care of ourselves and we don't treat ourselves with compassion and with sweetness and with gentleness, and we're not understanding towards ourselves, we have a really hard time understanding and honoring the suffering, the perspective, and the experience of other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what the Enneagram, along with my kind of 16 years of pastoral leadership and 16 years of just studying people and creating with so many people that I love, incubators and learning opportunities and environments. I just have had such a wonderful time researching and practicing all kinds of different things like mindfulness, meditation, contemplation, yoga. I became certified as a 200-hour yoga instructor, and so many different tools that come alongside what the Enneagram has taught me, that I created a curriculum called the Confusion to Clarity curriculum that includes kind of a tapestry of ways to understand, accept, love, and master yourself. And then watch how that changes your relationships in your life.
I love that you mentioned all those things, because I was going to ask you, after you knew yourself better, and it sounds like you mentioned your Enneagram 1, as am I. But
Bless us.
after learning that, how did you then care for yourself better?
Okay, so one of the things I learned from Chris Hewart's is that there are some specific postures of self-care that really help different personality types. For instance, the personality types are often really driven by a specific way of seeing the world through an intelligence center. So we got our head intelligence, like our very cerebral, kind of detail-oriented and logic-based intelligence. Then we have our heart intelligence, which is our emotional connection to the emotional energy and the wants, desires, dreams, visions of other people. And then we have our gut intelligence, right? Which is this directly engaged, practical sense of understanding how environmental changes can inform us and then give us some clues about how to, move in a way that is good, that continues our lives and our livelihoods. And so ones are in that gut kind of intelligence, right? And so I learned from Chris that, head people need silence to gain perspective and to kind of silence all the ways that they're receiving information in order to
unplug a bit.
Wisdom. Unplug is what I was trying to say. And then heart people really need solitude in order to gain perspective and see how all of these relationships are plugging into them. To unplug and really spend time alone, you get perspective. You're able to really see how these relationships are either really draining or really beneficial, if they're a placeholder for anything. And then with the gut people need silence. The gut people need stillness. The gut people are so busy doing. Remember, they're practically engaged in the world, that they need to take a break to just be still, to cease doing, to gain perspective on the intention and what's fueling all of this doing, and whether or not they're overdoing it, right? And so when I start to engage in stillness and really give myself those breaks that my inner critic was convincing me not to give myself, I begin to notice and realize the truth about certain decisions I was making. I began to really welcome and enjoy myself in a way that was different. And I actually gave my body a break because I was having gut issues, like literal gut issues. I was having back spasms, and I was having neck pain and shoulder pain. I learned that I was having anxiety triggered asthma, and my breathing was at less than 70%, and so all of those things started to dissipate when I began to engage in stillness. And that was a direct reflection of my Enneagram work. And then my work started to grow the way that I began to, learn and speak and study and just own my contribution really started to emerge.
Yeah. And, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but from my experience also in one category, sometimes I found myself not giving myself the forgiveness that I so freely give other people. And so I wonder if in that shift, honestly, just seeing you from the outside over the years, I can tell that you're more self-compassionate.
Oh gosh. I love the definition.
The things you said, I remember knowing you at that time and you were having a lot of health problems and stuff. So it's like, I can tell that you're giving yourself more grace. And I always felt grace from you because it's easy for you to give grace to others outwardly, probably, but the inside grace for yourself and the inside grace that then seeps out for other people, that for me, that's been really helpful to understand that I'm a reformer, right? Like I like to teach and I like to bring people to their best potential. So for myself, I'm always wanting myself to get to the best, and it's hard for me to give myself compassion and forgiveness.
Yeah. One of the best definitions of forgiveness I've ever heard is that forgiveness is accepting that the past could not have been any different, right? And so when we're able to accept and forgive the past, we really move into a perspective on how the past, no matter what has happened, has perfectly fit into this larger story. It has worked out somehow for our good. And then we have this serene, calm confidence that helps us to move forward and really let it go, which is different than the resentment and the anger we would feel in stress, because we're not letting go of the past. We're turning that thing over and over again, trying to figure out who's to blame, what went wrong, whose sin is it, morally, ethically, what are all of these things that we're trying to figure out, and ultimately, how are we trying to vindicate ourselves from not being the wrong person? But when we give ourselves that stillness, we give ourselves that self-compassion, we're able to look on the past and say, okay, here's what I learned. Here's what unfolded as a result. Here's how I am better. Here's how I am relieved. Here's who got out of my way by leaving. Here's what opportunity came as a result of that rejection. It's not rejection anymore. It's just redirection at this point. So we come into all of these things, and then we have a different attitude and a different vibration, and people start to want to be around us. They start to want to attract to us. That adds to our experience, which then makes us more credible, which makes us, have, more relationships. It increases our network. It increases our opportunities. Our opportunities increase our skills. You see how it just overflows into so many different of your life stations, all because you laid your behind down and decided to do some work that allows you to understand what your beliefs are and whose opinions your beliefs are, because that's what a belief is. It's an opinion that we heard over and over again that we decided was true. And some of the work that we do helps us to really examine our worldview and then dismantle it and leave behind and transform our minds and leave behind the stuff that does not align with the world that we want to create and the life that we want to live. So it's really helpful. And I also want to say too that, and I may be leading too much, but the journaling exercises that you gave us, particularly for me, just coloring, like this. Oh, good. This kind of stuff. Sarah King taught me how to do this. She taught me how to trace circles and let them overlap and then color in the overlap spaces. Like this kind of stuff helps. This kind of stuff helps the breathing and the focus and the concentration. Helps the anger, the waves of anger subside, and helps me go inward and find out what the anger is and what the anger is telling me. All while I'm, creating something, and it's pleasing. So I'm doing
So
something that I
cool.
like. I'm doing something for me. I'm not moving very
Yeah.
much. And so um, there's some real therapeutic stuff that's happening. Y'all see my manicure? My baby gave me a manicure a few minutes ago. I'm stunting on y'all with this manicure. So it gives me some real therapeutic, ways to really process my anger and see my anger more as an alarm clock that alerts me to things that need to change
What is
versus
happening? Yeah.
this sin or this bad thing about myself that I need to, suppress and get rid of.
Or be shameful about,
Yeah.
It's interesting that you bring up that, because I think that must be one of the reasons why I love, doing creative stuff as well, is because for me, you mentioned that gut, people that have more of the intelligence center and make decisions from their gut, which is me, we need stillness. And for me, it's very hard to sit still. I have a very hard time with that. And so for doing those exercises, like with the circles or just drawing something, it actually helps me be still. Stillness doesn't look like frozen to me. It looks like, because if I just try to sit there, I'm really working on it. I'm working on my contemplation and meditation, all of that. Thankfully, due to some amazing guides that have helped me, that literally walk me through it. But on my own, if I just try to be still, drawing, journaling, for me, that's been a tool to allow my brain to be still while my hands do the work. And it allows my brain to rest.
Exactly.
Yeah, and to
that's
kind
what
of
the stillness
access that
for is
level.
to give your body and your brain and even your heart a chance to really calm down. And so the deep breathing that we do, naturally our breath starts to get deeper and slower. We are either in a seated position or we're in some kind of comfortable position that allows for our bodies to just, be supported. Though all of those things start what's called parasympathetic innervation, which is your body's natural way of telling itself that it can rest and digest, tend and befriend. And it takes about 6 minutes for the parasympathetic innervation process to fully engage in our bodies. And then it takes about 20 to 60 minutes for us to fully heal from a traumatic experience or a stress trigger. And for some of us that experience trauma or stress at higher rates or more frequencies, that process can take several hours. So actually sitting down and coloring may seem a little strange and you may feel like, ooh, this I'm looking a little girl interrupted here.
Right.
It actually does create time and space for you to actively begin the process of healing from real trauma and real stress that's coursing through your body.
Absolutely. And for folks that don't know what kind of, maybe what Enneagram is, what number they are, or what intelligence center, I know we're going to get more into it on Thursday. So, stay tuned, y'all. But also, what do you recommend for people to start? What are some questions that they could perhaps start thinking about to pave the way for learning and understanding?
Yeah. Well, I always recommend just Googling Enneagram. I have a blog at daniellefanfare.com where I have done some writing about the 9 types in pretty plain language. That is basically how I understand it in my own story. So I think that reading some articles, learning about the summaries and the energy of the 9 types and seeing what resonates with you. I often like to say the type that makes you want to just throw your computer across the room is probably your type. Like when you start to feel exposed and a little embarrassed by what the types are experiencing, that's a ding, ding, ding. Yeah. When I was in that first training,
like you feel a little bit naked all the time.
I was like, move on. Go to the next one. Stop telling my business. You're reading my journal. Right. I don't appreciate it. And so when you start to feel like, wow, that's really sounds like my strategy for how I handle things. When you start to look into the emotional reactivity of the types, it's just it's a good place to start to notice, really who am I and how do I know? You know what I mean? How do I know who I am? And how much of who I am is kind of this sum total of what everybody has told me I am or should be, and how much of it is really an authentic expression of what I want to create and what energy I kind of want to channel and contribute to the world. It's a great place to start to think about those things. And then our time together on Thursday will be a kind of a good toe dip. We'll start to dip our toe into the water and wade into what the superpowers and what the contributions of each personality type can look like.
Excellent. 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 So we're going to we'll have teaching from you, and then we'll respond to it in our journals that night. So I love working with Danielle because she brings so much rich content that honestly deserves to be chewed on. Like you just can't hear it and be like, okay, got it, no problem. Like, it's deep, it's rich, it needs to be tasted, it needs to be, ingested and digested, like you said. And so by doing some of the art things, we can allow our mind to get in a place to digest that information and to start to consider, how do we use this for self-compassion and then compassion towards others? Love towards others, for self-love and love towards others. So I'm excited for it. And y'all, if you would want to join us, you can. You go to my profile, Sarah King Creates, and there's a link in my bio where you can register for that. It's 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Thursday, the 18th. It'll be about a little over an hour, probably an hour, 15 minutes of packed in info and time to digest as well. And
I would just say, if you're looking for a way to safely and discreetly process your feelings, and you don't want to do that with a person who may have an attachment to what you're saying, if you're not in a space where, therapy or counseling, is something that you want to venture into this week, right? Then I would say this workshop is a really good place for you to develop some practices and gain some insights where you will immediately start to feel better. Because that's the goal, right? If we can start to feel better, if we can experience some emotional balance, if we can get ourselves to a mental space of clarity and receptivity, then we'll start to remember who we are instead of using external voices, experiences, and people to tell us who we are. We already know, it's already kind of encoded in us. And so these kinds of opportunities are spaces to call forward and bring forward the things that we've forgotten.
And for such a time as this, I think the world, that's a whole nother IG Live conversation, y'all. But
did y'all see that eye roll?
So much of, just talking, let's say quarantine alone has been our world's opportunity to be still and to learn more about who we are. And so ourselves personally, we probably have already started this process, y'all. Danielle will give us some words and some tools to help us along the way. A package, a diagram, some direction on how do we figure this out? How do we figure out who we are? I would imagine that every single one of us, something has risen to the surface this year. Well, this year in time, not calendar year, although that too. But something is already starting to rise up in you to learn who you are even more accurately. So let's keep it going.
I'm so excited and so grateful. I don't know how we're going to do it in an hour and 15 minutes. We're going to have to have a little to be continued.
Right.
This a series or something, because this kind of work is, once you get into it, it becomes addictive and you become really excited about what you're learning, experiencing, and again, just how you start to feel better mentally, emotionally, and physically. So thank you for allowing me and trusting me to help facilitate this unfoldment for people.
Ooh, it's comforting to know you'll be there. I'm ready.
I'm ready
to take notes.
Ready.
Let's do it. So we will see you guys on Thursday.
See y'all on Thursday.